I was originally going to try to convince you to go vegan, but it started getting political, so now we're talking about the corruption in our government. It's not about being Republican or Democrat, it's about being rich. Unfortunately, none of you are billionaires or owners of gigantic corporations, those actually benefiting from our government system. Therefore, you're at the short end of the stick, and the people with the money are controlling you right now. Some of my information comes from sources like the Washington Post, The Atlantic, and other educational articles. Big corporations manipulate the law to their monetary benefit, jeopardizing the lives of everyone else in the country, and it needs to change. I'll go over the problems arising from corruption in our government, how the rich resist reform, and the approaches we can take towards a solution. Poverty, our joke of a healthcare system, our broken education system, and many other problems result from the rich controlling legislation. For 20 years, the United States healthcare system ranks most expensive and least efficient healthcare system among the developed nations. It is also one of the very few developed countries not to have universal healthcare. The U.S. educational system deems inefficient, expensive, and underperforming with respect to other developed countries. Also, socioeconomic class plays a larger role here than in other countries. Test scores are below average. We spend tens of thousands of dollars more per student than other countries ranked at our same level. While other countries are showing improvement in test scores since the early 2000s, U.S. test scores have gone from average to below average. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, 1 in 4 U.S. students doesn't meet test scores in which, quote unquote, students begin to demonstrate skills that will enable them to participate effectively and productively in life. Surprising? The U.S. also has the biggest income gap out of all modern nations. According to Bernie Sanders, Democratic Socialist and former Democratic presidential candidate, here's a picture. There he is standing next to Andrew Yang. According to Bernie Sanders, for just the past 2 years, the increase in wealth for the top 15 individuals in the U.S. is more wealth than is owned by the bottom 40% of Americans. That's just an increase in wealth for 2 years as compared to the bottom 40%'s actual wealth. It's almost like I don't know, poverty is a trap. Big corporations have most political influence, so their interests are prioritized over the interest of the majority. It's almost like there's a correlation between wealth and political influence. According to a Princeton study relating socioeconomic class to political influence, elite interests are more probable to be carried out if there is more elite support for an interest. Makes sense. It also shows that there is no correlation between how much support a public interest has and the probability of this interest being carried out. That doesn't make so much sense. Here's the graph from the study. Here's the graph for the economic elites. As you can see, more support means higher chance of the case to go through. Here's the average citizen's preferences. So as you can see, no matter how much support an interest has, it has almost the same percentage of likelihood for that case to be passed and for that law to be made. The probability for public interest to be carried out doesn't depend on how much or how little support the interest has. The campaigns not supported by the elite get outfunded and ultimately cannot compete with political influence that big corporations can pay for. The way it works is that special interests, the elite, hire lobbyists and make donations and offer jobs to congresspeople who play as puppets in Congress, passing laws that benefit the special interests. Here's a video that explains this well.
Right now, it's perfectly legal to buy political influence in America. Here's how it works. Let's say a big bank wants a law that would force taxpayers to bail them out again if they repeat the exact same reckless behavior that crashed the global economy in 2008. Not exactly the most popular idea with the public, and Congress knows that. That should be the end of it. But that's where the money comes in. It's perfectly legal for our bank to hire a team of lobbyists whose entire job is to make sure that the government gives the bank what it wants. Then those lobbyists can track down members of Congress who regulate banks and help raise a ton of money for their re-election campaigns. It's perfectly legal for those lobbyists to offer those same politicians million-dollar jobs at their lobbying firm. Then, those lobbyists can literally write the language of this new bailout law themselves and hand it off to the politician they just buttered up with campaign money and lucrative job offers. And it's perfectly legal for those politicians to take the lobbyist written language and sneak it through Congress at the last second. So now you've got a law that greatly benefits the banks and the whole process can start over. This is how a bill becomes a law. A special interest hires some lobbyists, those lobbyists collect campaign contributions, offer jobs, and then write the laws that Congress then passes to help those same special interests.
So, how can us broke folk beat the big bad bullies? Starting at the state level, we need to support and vote for legislation that takes away the political influence associated with the dollar. The American Anti-Corruption Act aims to make it illegal for politicians to accept lobbyist money, closes the revolving door, and much more. We need to shift the conversation and not let ourselves be influenced too much by the two-party political system. Don't settle for two parties. Settle for your beliefs and vote on laws you believe in. You can also sign the petition for the American Corruption Act, which I have a QR code for right there. So if you could take out your phone, scan that QR code, sign the petition, we're all set to go.